bird songs is like learning a whole new language. It's not easy, but our next guest says it opens up a whole new world when you learn to identify birds by their unique sounds. Joining me now is Frank Gallo, the director of the Connecticut Audubon Society Coastal Center at Milford Point. Frank, it's nice to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
This is such an interesting topic.
Yep.
First off, explain to people what the Audubon Society does.
Well, Connecticut Audubon is a conservation and education organization. We do programs for basically cradle to grave. We have preschool programs all the way up to people who are retired and take eco tours with us around the world to see birds and other wildlife.
Great, and one of the classes you're offering is learning bird songs,
right.
And it seems like there's so many different species. You can actually identify them by their song.
And so can you. I mean, most people recognize say a mallard duck.
Okay.
And if I asked a 3-year-old what does a duck say, they're going to go quack.
I guess so.
Okay, and if I said, okay, what does a crow say? And most kids would say caw, caw, caw. So when you're teaching bird songs, we do it sort of to start, you start with mnemonics.
Okay.
So I brought this book, I wrote this a few years ago, and it's got bird songs for kids. And see if you can hear the sound, Bob White.
Yeah, it's like he's saying his own name, huh?
Right, and that's what it's called. It's a northern Bob White, and that's this little tiny little quail here. And it got its name from the sound that it makes. So if you can do it, you just simplify things down to some sort of mnemonic device that will remind you of what what the sound is.
All right, so we have a picture of the duck, and I guess we all know what it sounds like, but
right. So people start with that, and then when we start to teach, and people know what a crow sounds like, and people know what, can learn what a Bob White sounds like, then we move into things like pitch.
Okay.
So if you were to hear a broad-winged hawk, for instance,
yes.
Its pitch is really high. It's I don't know if you have it, but it's got the sound.
That's what it sounds like?
That's
okay.
what it sounds like, and it's super high pitch. So if you start to group things, if we were going to learn birds, we group them by sight. Things that look similar, you put into the same groups.
Okay.
Same thing with sound. Things that sound similar, you group together. So you start the groups.
Oh, there it is.
There's your broadwing. And you start with the high-pitched things versus the low-pitched things.
But don't they sound pretty similar?
Some of them, yes. Some of them are very, very similar, and you have to sort of work on that, and we'll get there. But
okay.
you have to, like learning a language, it takes time to do this. In fact, it takes years.
You've been doing this your whole life, Frank?
I've been doing it since I was 3.
Okay.
And I've got a long way to go.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's... Well,
I guess there's so many birds. I mean,
there's 420, I don't know what we're up to now, 27, 29 species in Connecticut. And, learning those, and then there's, 800 in the U.S. or more, closer to 900 now.
You have your work cut out for you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about low pitch. We have the mourning dove.
Mourning dove. It does the... which is everybody's first owl.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like an owl,
right.
But that's not it.
But you've got that, which is the broad wings, high pitch, and then the... which is the mourning dove. So high, low. And so you start with that category. So if you were doing owls, for instance.
Sure, we have an owl, actually. Let's put the picture of the barred owl.
Yeah, barred owl is a perfect example. You've got the mnemonic for barred owl, which is who cooks for you all.
That's what the bird sounds like?
Yeah, and it's an 8-hoot series, and it goes... All right,
that's true. Who cooks for you? You could totally hear that.
Yeah, I can even prove it. Look, this is a real barred owl.
I believe you, Frank. That's right.
Who cooks for you? Who cooks for you all?
All right, a couple more examples here. We have the American robin, which is very popular.
Yeah, and its mnemonic is the cheer up, cheerly, cheerly, cheer up. And everybody does.
I love that.
Cheer up, cheerly, cheerly, cheer up. And this is a bird that it's a great one to start with. So it's in your yard, people see them all the time. Mm-hmm. So you learn the ones that are in your neighborhood, and then you go from there. We have birds that sound similar. They're sort of this sing-songy song. Sure. And they teach Scarlet Tanager, which is this beautiful scarlet red bird with black wings. There it is. Scarlet Tanager song is said to sound like a robin with a cold.
Okay.
So it's got this sort of gravelly, the tone has a much more raspy quality to it. So even though it's doing the pattern of a robin, that cheer up, cheerly, cheerly, cheer up sound, it's doing it sort of, you know, it's got that real raspy quality to it. So even though the pattern's similar,
so there's little minor differences.
There's enough of a difference that you can tell the difference.
All right. Frank, let me ask you about some upcoming events at the Audubon Society.
Okay, well, we just completed our fall fundraiser. We just did a big sit, which raises money for the Coastal Center. We sat in a 17-foot circle and saw 89 species of birds yesterday, and people pledged per species. So I don't know what the total is now, and people can still pledge if they'd like. We're running, we've got a birding class starting this coming Wednesday,
okay,
which is birding for beginners.
Sure.
And it's a one-night introductory class, and then we have a whole series that I do at the Coastal Center where Birding 101, Birding 201, Advanced Birding, so people can come, they can try it out with a one-night class. We go through the basics, and then they come for progressively longer classes, 2 nights, and a field trip, and then we just work you right into it. So.
Great. Well, we're going to put all the information online at WTNH.com. We're out of time, but give us one last call as we get about to break.
Here's a great horned owl.
All right, Frank Gallo, thank you so much for being here.